chose Peak Pilates as my partner, and they have such a wonderful education program. And it's divided they teach the classical system with I like to say with breathing room because it pulls in the science of modern day physiology, anatomy, and kinesiology, and it incorporates a little bit of the kind of the modern thing, modern choreography that's going on right now. It's comprehensive. You can learn the mat and the reformer, the chair, the high chair, the ladder barrel, the spine corrector, the barrels, all of this amazing equipment, pedipole, another piece of equipment, baby chair. So it is a comprehensive program where you come out of it at level 1 being able to teach a private session, a group class in reformer, and in mat from a beginner to intermediate level. It's phenomenal. And so I started that immediately in Houston with my connections through the people I had met in Austin, and Peak Pilates had been manufacturing equipment, but they didn't have their own education program, so I was one of the first ones to open an education center in Houston, Texas with Peak Pilates, and it's still going strong. Yeah, and
Lovely.
now Peak Pilates is worldwide.
Yes,
So,
you created this
yes. So
empire.
that so that was long-winded of how I, went from Houston graduating to LA back to Texas. So
Can we talk about this is such a journey. This is what a journey that you have put
and
yourself
it's
on.
because I had the courage as a kid, I didn't go to college. I actually failed out of high school, and I was doing really bad. I had a horse that was my parents divorced when I was 10, and I loved horses, and I used to come up to this area of Texas 'cause my grandfather was here, and he always had a horse for me to ride, and here's my connection to nature and being outside and loving horses. I had this love. And I wanted to be here. I wanted to be grounded at home. So when my parents got a divorce, my dad bought me a horse, and my best friend and I had a horse together through junior high and part of high school. And my horse passed away as a sophomore. I was a sophomore, and my life was just crushed because that horse was my everything, my reason for being. Because when you're a kid coming home, your mom works, there's nobody there, your parents divorced, my brother's older, he's doing his own thing, and you're alone all the time, and you have a hobby like a horse that needs you. You have to be there to feed it. You have to be there to groom it. You have to be there to clean the stall out. That gave me such responsibility. I had a dog, I had a Labrador, I had a moped. He sat in the middle, and I took off and went to the barn every day after school. And we rode horses, and some of the most joy I've ever felt in my life is riding with my best friend, bareback on a horse after school. I mean, fun stuff. And it wasn't about showing, and it wasn't about, being the best at jumping or barrels. It was just friendship and horses.
Nature.
Yeah, and being outside. So, um, where are we? I lost my track. I know you asked a question.
No, you had that you had this responsibility after
Yes,
you
yes,
felt this huge
right.
responsibility after
So,
you.
when my horse passed away, I I passed away.
I believe you.
I passed away. So and that was in high school, and I became very depressed and bulimic, and, um, I hid it. I hid it from everybody. I was playing soccer. I was an athlete. I ran track, volleyball, basketball. I was always very athletic, very movement oriented. And, um, I stopped caring. I stopped going to school. My mom didn't even know I wasn't even going to school. And my best friend, who's related to Don Henley, who I ended up being a roommate with. She and I went to high school together, and she pulled me aside and said, "What's going on with you? You're not gonna graduate. What's You're such this amazing person. What's going on?" I'll never forget her helping me to kind of pull me up and out of this Hades or deep hole I had fallen into of depression and not having any parents and um, losing what I love so much that defined me as a person, my horse. And it was like a light bulb went off that somebody cared, actually cared about me, that loved me. And because I was so closed off from that. And I realized I wasn't going to graduate. So I didn't get to graduate with my class and all my friends. I hadn't prepared to go to college like everybody else. I just was disassociated, checked out. While
Mm,
everybody else was doing that and their parents were helping them, my mom had to work. She was trying to survive.
right.
My dad lived in Saudi Arabia and he was working for heavy equipment. And so it's it's a miracle that I went through these things, was able to survive them, and ended up going to summer school later on and getting my degree. But I think the hardest part was the humiliation and shame of not graduating.
Mhm.
So you close down even more. And that's why I went to Paris to start new. So I had some French friends and I love the language, and some of my best friends in high school were Iranian, were Persian. I love their family, and I love speaking French with them, and I had already taken French in high school. And, so they knew a family that needed an au pair, and they moved back to Paris, so I said, "Okay, I'll go." So, I'd never been out of Texas, and I moved to Paris at 18.
Love
Just
the spirit.
just jumped right off a cliff, and either
Yes!
I just jumped right off a cliff, and so I flew. You know, you either fall or you fly. You either sink or you swim. Right?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So all alone, got lost in Brussels, missed my train, took too much stuff.
I'm sure it's not funny. We're just laughing because I mean, we all have gone through this kind of,
Yeah,
life adventures, but
yeah.
the
I
laugh
walk
is the recognition of,
Yeah,
I know how it feels. Exactly. Good for
yes.
you. I mean, that's life.
Yeah, I remember walking up. I left all my luggage. I'd carried these big, huge army bags full of duffel bags, and I couldn't get them off the train. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know where I was supposed to go, and I walked up to these women, and I said, "Can you help me?" And they didn't speak English. But I showed them where I needed to go, and they put me on the right train. They helped me carry my bags, and then I ended up in Paris somehow. And I'll never forget being so exhausted. I had a migraine from the stress. And I arrived to Paris, and this guy comes by, and I've got this big bag. He puts it on the thing. He takes me to a taxi, and I show the guy my address where I need to go. And I showed up a day late and a dollar short to this family, and they lived in uh, right next to the Tour Eiffel in, Place Joffre, and it was right across from the École Militaire. Yeah, beautiful, right? And then the apartment they put me in was in the, 12th arrondissement, and, I remember walking home after work, walking through the park to the Eiffel Tower, across the Seine, to the Trocadero, right? Where everybody takes the photos. And here I am, this lonely Texas cowgirl, walking, thinking, reading philosophy. What's the meaning of my life? Who am I? Blah, blah, blah. As an au pair, going to her little tiny room, and I shared an apartment I was in the grandmother's in the bottom of this beautiful grand place. Rue de la Faisanderie was the name of the street. right next to Près du Bois Boulogne. And, yeah, that was such an amazing wake up for me, and I had a lot of epiphanies about life and being human. I watched a lot of movies. I saw Out of Africa in Paris, and I remember walking out, getting in a taxi because I didn't wanna take the metro home, and feeling of an epiphany where you cannot judge others unless you've actually been in their shoes, of never having to judge somebody because of the experience and depth of empathy and compassion that you can have for others. It was a stunning moment in the back of a taxi, raining, and I guess and I had just been to see Out of Africa, which is one of my favorite writers, Isaac Denson, um, and that was such a beautiful film, Out of Africa with Meryl Streep and, Robert Redford. Just having moments of awareness of what it means to be human and not you have to stand under something to understand it. You can't stand, um I guess going through grief and losing my horse and my parents divorced and where you finally have compassion and mercy for yourself that you can heal and go forward regardless if you don't believe in yourself. So, those were moments, and I had those moments onward, and even in LA, I had experiences of spirit I would say they're spiritual experience. I would say that it's like Joseph Campbell of, The Hero's Journey. It's not the easy journey, but it's the one that is your calling, and when you're on track for that calling and your life's work, it fulfills you, and you you wake up, you grow up.
You actually put yourself on that path as well. You prepared yourself to be ready
Yes,
to receive
yes,
because it requires some proactivity as well,
yes,
right? You started reading,
yes,
pondering, asking these questions. You could have gone to clubs and just party in
yes,
Paris, but you
right.
chose to read and reflect. And Paris, by the way, is the perfect spot for this, for awakening.
Mhm.
I do believe it's
I think you're I
perfect
yeah,
place for awakening your soul, your inner purpose for
yeah, it's an amazing backdrop, yes, I agree with you, and it's not that I did go out. I went out with my modeling friends, and that was enough. That was enough. So
Well,
I just wasn't willing to sacrifice my soul for that glamour, for that illusion of what I thought, I wanted. And so that changed my trajectory into health and healing and helping other women build self-esteem, building my self-esteem through movement.
can we talk about this a little bit more? You also mentioned the instinct that is living in our gut and a lot of
Yes.
nerve ends that live in our gut. Can we talk
And
more about this? Because I find it fascinating. Our intuition, our wisdom, our emotions mostly are gathered and stored in this area. And most of our problems, especially in female
yes.
problems are happening in this side, in this area of our body, right? We experience so much like different things.
Yes, that's how we
Different
store our trauma and our stress. Our cortisol is stored in our stomach. Yeah.
why? Why like not in our head? Why not in our chests? Why it's in our intestine?
Because this is our most vulnerable part of our body. this breadbasket, right? And it's connected to our sexual center as well. It's where most your self-esteem is in your 3rd chakra.
Mhm.
Your root chakra is your, tribal, your sex center, and so those 3 first chakras I don't talk about yoga, and I've studied it and I've practiced it, but I feel like if I talk about yoga, it's gonna alienate people,
Right.
but so I use the metaphor of the powerhouse to describe the center of self as the same as the 3rd chakra, and which hold memory, which holds trauma, and, from the science point of view of why, it's because when we store stress, it's we hold on to the fat. That's stress. Besides other factors of our terrible diet here in America and all the chemicals and plastics and, um, processed food. There's a lot of
Yes.
factors that are in the sugar, the glyphosates, you know, I mean, it's wreaking havoc on the enteric nervous system. We are being yeah.
That affects your sleep as well and decision-making abilities.
What to sleep?
That affects the sleep, decision-making
Yes.
abilities,
Yes.
think
Brain fog.
thinking yes?
There's a gut and a brain connection. And so if this is clogged, so to speak, appropriate, could be clogged on any level, emotional, spiritual, physical, financial, right? Holding trauma here, holding pain here, memories, y- that affects the brain. So, and until you clear the gut and fix the gut, this doesn't function as well.
So
And
not
there's a lot of science behind that.
true,
Yeah.
absolutely. But none of
Yep.
us have the privilege of living in nature, and we live in situations like we live in big cities, we live in societies where, there are all sort of things are happening around us that are not under our control, and they
Yes.
cause a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety, and
Yes.
it affects us. These are the things that we cannot control individually, right? So, how can one take care of themselves in the privacy of their homes while all this chaos and havoc is happening outside in the world they have to go out to deal with?
You have to have a place of space where you reconnect to yourself, and that I mean it's a Pilates mat, a yoga mat, whoever's your God, your spiritual center, your vision board. So that's what I did, and that's what I've done. And now this is my vision board has been manifested. Um, you have to have a quiet place to go to be able to reconnect to self. And that's why everybody has a pet now,
That's
because
true.
pets release oxytocin. You know, it's so popular to have your pet. Everybody has a dog, everybody has a cat. And because you know, everybody's very lonely from a lack of touch and a lack of connection. And you have to have a place of space I don't care if it's just I had a little apartment and one room, and I still had a place where I could lie down, breathe, do my practice, pray, write. Writing is a beautiful calming experience, and we don't do it anymore because we're so but writing thoughts down, I have journals where I've written poetry, and I used to sketch and draw things and reflect on my experiences and tear things out of magazines and put them on a poster board with my, you know, favorite things from my travels, and you have to do that for at least 15 to 20 minutes a day to stay calm, to reconnect to who you are, to center yourself.